Hey guys, Technomentary with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 13 Pro with the iPhone 8 in a head-to-head comparison, where you take a look at all the details that you need to know, whether you're considering buying it or just simply want to know the difference between these two devices. Even if you're looking to upgrade, this video should help you answer some of the questions that you guys might have, although this isn't quite a fair comparison considering that the iPhone 8 was released back in 2017 and now it's been 4 years since the release of the iPhone 13 Pro, so 4 generations behind. You really don't have a lot to compare here. Of course, a lot of things have changed, and that's why we're going to go down into all the details that you need to know. But before we dive into today's video, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure that like and subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in market for one of these phones at a discounted price, whether it's new or old, make sure you guys check out the links in the description section. So let's dive into the video. The first thing you'll notice is the Pro model here. Of course, size-wise, it's a little bit bigger. Of course, you have that full screen, and in the past, the iPhone 8 and the SE second generation were the only models that you can get with the home button and the top notch here, and designs have changed where Apple just moved, and the industry in general with smartphone moved into all screen display. Taking a look at the back here, as you can see here, both of the backs are actually glass and front are glass as well here. You notice, of course, those camera differences right here. You have that one single megapixel 12 megapixel camera on the 8 versus that triple 12 megapixel camera on the Pro model here, and you're missing also that LiDAR that's not available on the iPhone 8 here, which again, that's going to be another big factor between these devices. And of course, the other difference between these build, it's going to be the material that you used on it. On the iPhone 8, you have this aerospace grade aluminum body built to it, where on the iPhone 11 or 12 Pro, on the iPhone 13 Pro actually, is going to be that surgical grade body here, so more durable body on the phone itself. And of course, you notice those bezel here, you have flat bezel versus rounder bezel, so that's going to be another big distinguishing factor between these devices here. So in terms of the body build wise, it's sort of where Apple is taking its design, going back to that iPhone 5, 5S lineup here as well. Now when you look at another external factor, is going to be the color choices you're going to get. So between the both devices, you get your basic silver, gold, which you have here, and your graphite color. But distinguishingly, on the iPhone 13 Pro, now you can get this new special color known as Sierra Blue. So if you're looking for a different color besides that basic gold and the silver and the graphite color, this is where the 13 Pro comes in. Of course, we can start to look at some of the things like the display here. It's going to be vastly different display, and that's because the technology of the displays have changed. On the 8, you just have that Retina HDR 4.7 display with IPS technology, and it has a 1334 by 750 pixel resolution at 326 ppi and a 1400:1 contrast ratio and a max brightness nit of 625. Again, on the 13 Pro here, which is a more premium display you have here, it's going to be a whopping 6.1 all screen Super Retina XDR display with ProMotion, and the ProMotion refresh rate goes up to 120 Hertz for the very first time on the iPhones we've seen here. Again, that's a big jump in terms of the display technology, and even the resolution almost doubles in the pixel resolution. You have 2532 by 1170 at 460 ppi, and you also have the contrast ratio almost 2 million to 1 compared to that 1400 to 1. And of course, you have this max brightness of 1,000, almost double the amounts of max brightness. This is going to be important, especially if you take the phones outside and such. Although both phones are water resistant here, you have slightly different variation here. You can only take the iPhone 8 about a meter for 30 minutes, but you can take the iPhone 13 Pro up to 6 meters for 30 minutes. But before you do take it out, if either of the phones are running into trouble with the devices here, because what's going to be happening, water is going to get in and it's going to be compromised here. Now let's talk about the battery life of these two phones. It's going to be another important factor for both of these phones, is the battery life, and do expect the battery on the 13 Pro, it's going to be around 3100 mAh battery. That's a huge battery that you have compared to the 8 small body phone in the past. Batteries weren't the greatest, but if you really do the comparison, what you're going to be possibly looking at, it's going to be the video playback. So what kind of video playback you can expect? That's a good benchmark indicator. On the 8, you get about 13 hours of video playback versus 22 hours on the 13 Pro. Again, the 13 Pro is a phone that's Apple considers an all-day battery. Does it last all day? Well, surprisingly, if you use it somewhere between a medium usage, so that means using your phone here and there throughout the day, you can pretty much get through the whole day on a full single charge. We can't really quite say the same thing for the iPhone 8 here. It does eventually die maybe halfway through the day, especially for a medium user. So I don't expect the battery life to be as good as the 13 Pro, and that's sort of the given on it. So the next thing we probably want to talk about, the actual hardware piece of these two phones, are going to be the chipset on it. So the chip technology has changed, and by a lot here, and that's going to be expected because 4 years things have changed, technology has changed. On the iPhone here is the A11 Bionic chip with 6 cores of CPU. You also have 3 cores of GPU, and that's going to be it. And then a 2-core neural engine. That's sort of what you're getting at. It's still a great phone. You know, for the most part, we see that performance-wise, you're not taking a big hit on it. It still gets you down when you're browsing around, doing stuff. You know, you can update it to iOS 15, do much more, and such browsing-wise. It's not the fastest phone out there, but it still definitely gets the job done. Now on the 13 Pro here, you're jumping up to a 15 Bionic chip again. 4 generations ahead, you have this new 6-core CPU. You have these 2 performance and 4 efficiency core. You have 5-core GPU, a jump up from that 3-core GPU, and you have 16-core neural engine versus only that 2-core that we mentioned on the iPhone 8 here. And what does that all mean? Well, on the iPhone Pro here, pretty much it's the smartest or the fastest chip on any smartphone on the market right now is what Apple claims. So this device is pretty much power packed because of its price point. And talking about price point is probably another aspect we need to talk about, because this is $1,000 phone, actually $999 plus tax, versus the iPhone 8, which right now, if you're buying it pre-owned, because it's harder to get a newer device, you're paying around $150 to $175. But if you do score it new, it's probably around $200 or so, which you can find using the links in the description section. So almost 5 times the cost. Do expect all of those features that we talk about going to not be there. Now let's talk about the camera. We mentioned physically the camera, you have 1 versus 3. 3 is better than 1. What are you missing out on the camera? Well, a couple things you're missing out here. Of course, on the iPhone 8 here, you can take HDR photos. You can actually record up to 4K here, no doubt here. But the missing part on the iPhone 8, which would definitely help, is that it doesn't have a portrait mode. Along with the portrait mode, of course, on the iPhone 13 Pro, a newer version of a mode for photography came out, which is known as a cinematic mode. You're not going to get that even if you update to iOS 15. Cinematic mode pretty much allows you to take some phenomenal video that are film grade, is what Apple claims it. Light years ahead in terms of the camera improvement versus the 8. So if you're a photographer, but it's pretty much an auto-given choice that you're going to be going with the 13 Pro here. Now, we talked about a lot between the specs here. Now, let's really conclude with some of the reasons why you might pick the iPhone 8. Well, for probably the biggest reason you're picking the iPhone 8, it's going to be your budget-friendly phone that's still relevant and gets the latest update here. It's the iPhone 8 that, again, it's a phone that's really compact and small, and it's light because it's a smaller phone. You have 56 grams less than the Pro model here. And it has that iconic fingerprint touch, which we've seen can be very helpful, especially in these day and era where fingerprint can definitely help, especially if you have a face covering on. You don't want Face ID interfering and constantly needing to pull down that mask or simply type in your password. So Face ID, that definitely helps in terms of that vintage home button that you have. So that's going to be the thing. Budget-friendly phone with the home button, and still has the latest version of the update here. And we expect this phone probably going to get iOS 16 also it doesn't seem likely. It's a 50-50 given that it's been around for 4 years, and Apple usually gives major update around 4 to 5 years. So we'll be surprised to see iOS 16 when it does come out. On the other hand, the 13 Pro, again, the premium model, the $1,000 phone, almost 5 times the cost of it. What are you getting? Well, you're getting, in terms of actual hardware, you're getting a free fast phone. It actually has 6 gigs of RAM versus 2 gigs on the 8. So performance wise, it's going to shoot up the roof. We've seen about 2.5 faster performance in some of the Antutu benchmark tests. That's incredible. Of course, we also mentioned that you have this rear camera that can actually 3 times optical zoom compared to the 8. You have a display that's Super Retina here with the very first time. You have 120 hertz refresh rate, which gives your phone that crisp feels like it's just buttery smooth in terms of browsing around, just clicking things. When you're doing stuff, you're gonna get that feel like it's just smoother on it, and especially if you're gaming and such, you may recognize that. Another thing to mention on the iPhone, the 13 Pro here, of course, it has a larger battery, right? Almost double the size in a way, maybe like good around. You have on the 8 around 1820 mAh versus almost a 3100 mAh battery. So that's going to be the other thing, of course, to mention. Of course, if you're looking at the screen size, we mentioned that 4.7, 6.1, you get almost that 1.4 inch bigger display, and that's really good, especially if you use the phone to game or watch Netflix, maybe stream a lot of full screen stuff, probably where you're going to get at. And the other thing to note of the 13 Pro here, that if you really look into it, it's that max brightness we mentioned with the display. You get almost 66% higher max brightness, especially if you're taking it outside, and a 41% higher pixel density. And of course, the other detail that we didn't mention, especially on the Wi-Fi here, is that you get Wi-Fi 6 network that are compatible with it. Of course, the iPhone 8 still connects with your Wi-Fi, but just a minor detail jump. And finally, and lastly, of course, this is the latest phone, and it's going to be supported for a good 5 years, no doubt. So if you're looking for a phone for a long time, for another 5+ years, this is probably the phone you're going to pay, and you're going to pay that money upfront. So that's our review for between these two phones. Is it worth upgrading from the 8 to the 13? For absolutely. Can you afford it, and does it make sense for you as your budget? That's probably the biggest thing it's going to come down to, because both phones, software wise, run the same software, right? Of course, you have more feature packed on the 13 Pro because it is a new phone that was just recently released compared to a 4-year-old phone. So hopefully this video was helpful and you guys liked it, enjoyed. Make sure to share your comment and experience between these devices, whether you upgraded one, used one in the past. Leave a comment in the comment section, and of course make sure that like and subscribe button. See you guys next time.